Get yourself in the lotus position, because I've got no plan, no pretense, and definitely no bypassing. I'm Josh Connolly, and this will probably be dysfunctional. Man, these podcasts come around quickly, and I'm very glad to be back again. I'm bringing you probably different energy, I would say, to the previous podcasts that I've done. We're on number 4, episode 4 already. Weekly is they're coming at me thick and fast. But I did my first Belong in-person event yesterday, which we're going to talk about in a minute. And basically there was delayed trains, and it meant that I didn't get home till about 1:30. No, that's a lie. I'm exaggerating with that. Didn't get home till about 1:45, but by the time I'd showered and stuff like that, and got myself into bed, it was that late. And then I always get up early. I say early, I got up at 6 o'clock today. To make sure that I do my sort of morning routine. And it's really important for me. I always say it doesn't matter how late I go to bed, I'll still feel better the next day, mentally, in my mind, if I buy that time for myself still at the gym. So a lot of people would think, well, you got to bed so late. So I normally go to bed at like 9-10 o'clock, right? So I've gone to bed like 3 hours later. Most people would say, why don't you just stay, if you've got the opportunity, don't go to the gym and stay in bed later. But mentally, I need that space so bad in the morning. It's just so important to me. And actually, when I say I went to the gym, I went and just did a nice long sauna and just made sure that I created that space. And one of the things that they talk about in recovery actually is dress your mind before you dress your body. So like, you get up in the morning, before you leave the house, you make sure that you've dressed your body, and you make sure that you look in the way most of the time that you want to look, right? And so can you do that with your mind as well? Can you make sure that you've adequately done what your mind needs in the mornings? And that bit of alone time and buying that for myself is just of the highest importance, really. It's of the highest importance to me. But that said, I've got a coffee on the go. I've been saying for the last 3 episodes, for those of you that watch on YouTube, that I need to get a side table. I haven't got one yet. So I've got no notes whatsoever today. And I'm using my iPad as a side table. And that's because normally if I'm having a can of 0 sugar-free drink like I normally do, that upsets everybody, there's a set of drawers over here that I have the drawer open and sit it in, but you can't do that with a coffee cup. I don't know if that's a bit of useless information for you there, but so yeah, it's interesting because I can feel that this week's podcast is probably going to end up being shorter. And although I've said that from the beginning, that I'm going to authentically turn up in the energy that I'm feeling, and some podcasts will be 10 minutes and some will be an hour. I feel like now that I've done 3 at an hour, I feel this pressure. I feel this pressure to make these long and fill the hour. So we'll go where we need to go. And like I say, that desire to be authentic, that desire to be true, is not always easy. Once the camera comes on and you're doing this stuff and you're creating this content, it's very difficult to not fall into portraying yourself in a certain way. And I really feel like social media, which is, still new, isn't it, really? Like, in the grand scheme of things, has really pushed us along in that kind of presenting ourselves different to the world. Like, I even look at our opinions and stuff like that. There's even like an underlying knowing now that the way that we show up, not just in the way that we look. So I think that in more recent years, we always talk about face filters and stuff like that, and people change the way that they look. And that's like, people have done that since the beginning of the time with like makeup and, different ways that we all as humans have groomed ourselves to try and make ourselves be perceived as looking as good as what we want ourselves to look, right? But I think what social media has like really accelerated in more recent years is the virtue side of things as well, right? The acceleration of the kind of fake and virtuous opinion that, that tribalism that we've had. Is it tribalism? But that, like, we this links to what we did last night, which I'm going to talk about in a second. But that need and that want to belong, that desire to be accepted by our peers, means that we will often go along with what's said and done online, what we perceive to be the right thing. Many of us are often trying to, I think as a society, one of the things that social media has done to us is that we spend more time trying to be perceived and seen as a good person rather than actually just being a good person. Because if you can make yourself look like a good person on social media, then you don't need to fucking bother actually being a good person in real life, whatever a good person is. And that's the point, right? Is what even is a good person, and what does that mean, and what opinions are right. And we've all become now like our own little personal brands online, right? And I'm not digging people out that do that. My whole brand is a personal brand, right? But you have to be careful to remember that, like, that also isn't real life, is it? And so I do think that causes us problems sometimes, because we try and live our day-to-day lives being the way that we portray in terms of opinions and viewpoints online, and then it's not always the same, is it? It doesn't always line up. So yeah, I think that's look. That's something that I think I talked about on the previous podcast as well. So yeah, but look, I wanted to just share a little bit about Belong, which was our first in-person event yesterday in London, and I'm going to talk you through a few things that happened actually, because I had it was a very emotional time. These things are very emotional for me when I do them, not least because yesterday we sold 86 tickets in the end, I think. So you've got around 80 people in this massive cathedral that just looked incredible, by the way, with these blue lights in there, the way that the sound bounces around the whole place. And when you're holding space for that many people and they're releasing emotion in the way that the breathwork does, you can't avoid that having a big impact on you and your body, you know? And without getting too woo-woo about it, what you start to realize is that emotions are very physical, right? Emotions are in our body. We experience them very, very physically. And I think that one of the things that makes us human and separates us from other animals as well, in a lot of cases, right? And I think it's every case. I don't know. I'm not fucking David Attenborough. But is our ability to be able to feel the emotions that somebody else is feeling. So when you're in a big room like that, experiencing them big emotions, it obviously is going to have an impact on you, and you have to go through a bit of a process. But if I just tell you the reason behind what we're doing with Belong, is it's built around this idea of the wellness space and the wellness industry being, I feel, unreachable. I feel like it becomes this pristine place that if you're really in the mire, because when you're in the mire, right, when you're really going through the struggle, it's very difficult to present in the way that a lot of these wellness spaces do. And I look at some of the facilitators that lead sessions, and look, I don't want to be too aggy in the way that I talk about it. It's not me just going out and digging people out and saying that all of these people are like horrible people. I think we get lost in it all. I think it's very easy to get lost in it all. I think that there's a good argument to say that I get lost in it all sometimes, you know, making it look, you want it to look fucking amazing, and it's all about the way that it's portrayed, and it stops being about the thing that it's supposed to be about. So let me give you a small example of something that I changed yesterday in terms of my mindset, something where I had got lost in my mindset. I would sort of get people in the past at events when they're coming in and they're laying down, I'd be like, look, we can all put our bags over there or put them to the side. Because I'm thinking in my head, when we get pictures, when the photographer's here, I want it to fucking look really aesthetically pleasing. And then yesterday I was like, nah, it's nice to capture the event, but people must feel comfortable. And like, I want my shit with me all the time, innit? Yeah. So if I was in a big space like that with a fucking room full of people that I didn't know, I don't want to put my shit over there. I want it next to me. And I don't care it shouldn't matter what the fucking photos look like. Let the photos capture the true, authentic version of what we're doing and what we're trying to achieve. So like, I think that I'm using that as like a way of highlighting one of, the way that sometimes we get lost in what this looks like rather than what it's supposed to be. And so what the idea behind Belong is we've changed. So I used to call them Breathwork for emotional release in person, right? And it's still, we say that we do a Breathwork for emotional release there because that's what it is, right? But the reason that I changed it to Belong is because when I was 24, a lot of this stuff would have felt woo-woo to me. And by the way, what you can hear now is not an ice cream truck, it's the fucking food truck. And it turns up every day at 9:30, like now. I should have known it was coming. And we're going to wait for it to finish. This shows you how authentic we are, yeah. We're going to wait for that to finish, and then we're going to carry on. Fucking bloody food truck. So yeah, I've completely lost what I was talking about. What we're trying to achieve with Belong, and the reason that we changed the word to, we changed the name of it and the title of it, is because I wanted to change the energy of what it was. When I was 24, I wouldn't have gone near a breathwork event. Like, I mean, I don't know if I would have gone near it, but certainly in the way that some of them are presented, it wouldn't have been accessible to me. And we talk about accessibility, and I think we're making strides as a society of being more accessible, right? But to make things accessible to everybody, we shouldn't need to always categorize and create labels that we then say, well, this person is this type of way, so we need to make sure that we accommodate for them. It is useful to do that. I think it's good that we do that. I think we should carry on doing it. I'm not against doing that. But I just feel like we should try and make things reachable and accommodate for everybody the best that we can. Now, and I think the wellness space gets lost and doesn't do that. I think it feels very unreachable. I think it feels very woo-woo. I think I see people say to me all of the time, I just want to be able to take breathwork to people, to the everyday person on the street. And I think that's cool. So why do you fucking start talking differently when you're delivering it? Like, I've seen your stuff online. And again, I'm not digging people out. That's why I'm not using names or anything like that. I'm just sort of speaking in a general way. And I get why we do it. I get why it happens, right? And I don't want to sound arrogant of like, I've worked through that and I'm not like that now. But I do want to get across, this is my learnings. Because when I first got sober, I remember meeting up with some people. I'd been invited to, I can't remember what it was. It was like so it might have been somebody's party at a pub or something. So it was like a lot of the people that I used to hang about with. Not the really bad people, like good people, but like, people that are sort of pub people. And pub people aren't bad people. Some, that's the life that they live, right? But I was at this pub and I remember when I was talking, and I was like a year and a half sober, and I'd started talking like this, and I was like, saying that just, as I've got myself sober. And I remember this woman, lovely lady, going, oh, you're pronouncing all your T's. Like, she went, what the fuck's happened to you? And I remember being so offended and thinking, I'm sober now. I'm somebody. And listen, that was exactly who I needed to be at the time, right? And that's what got me through. But she was right to call it out, because she probably felt in her body and in her nervous system and all of that, like, this fucking ain't who he is. And so over the years, I've been able to come back to who I am. And, I really do love when people tell me that one of the reasons they really like the work that I do is because that they feel like I'm real and they feel like there's no pretense there. So we really wanted to, I listen as much as I can. I listen to people. I listen to feedback over the years. I listen to everybody, including the toxic, horrible people that I upset. I try and listen to them, I've always done that all of my life, because I'm a chronic people pleaser. So I'm always trying to work out how to get you to like me, right? So you can take some of these traits and these ways of being that we pick up, and they can become useful. So I am always listening to people's feedback, and regularly over the last years, this is what people say to me. I like that you just feel like a normal person, right? You show your normal everyday stuff. You don't try and be like a guru or anything like that. And again, listen, let me say as a side note, I'm not putting myself out scot-free as saying I never try and be a guru. It does come in, and you have to check yourself on that, and you have to allow yourself to call yourself out, or notice whenever people maybe call you out, and really check yourself on that. So that's one of the things that we've been leaning into. And then I wanted to bring a community feel. I'm a big believer in community. I'm a big believer in the power of bringing people together. So we just completed the 10th in a U cohort, right, this week as well. On Wednesday, we had the final call. And I really wanted to push home to people on there. And I wanted to do this, and we did this at Belong as well last night, which is when you have breakthroughs through breathwork and through doing some reflective work with a group of people, you did that because in Inner You, in Belong, what we're trying to do is provide a safe space, which is a fucking basic human need. A safe space so that you can feel safe to reflect inwardly and figure out some things about yourself that you need to figure out. I want people to understand. I want you to know and recognize that you have so much power within you. I worry that the mental health conversation in general nowadays, it's become so hyper capitalist, hyper corporate, that at the crux of selling you something is to make you know and believe that you're missing something. And it doesn't have to be like that. Now, to be really clear, I'm not against capitalism. I own a business. I do believe actually that that we need some kind of structure in that way. What I really don't like is hyper capitalism, which is money against money above everything. That's where the problem lies. And that's because when it becomes money above everything, the way that you get people to spend money is you say, you don't have what you need, so you need to go out and buy it. And what I'm trying to do, and I believe that we can do it within the structures and the framework of the society that we live in, which is where we go, actually, can we find ways to spend our money in a way that kind of supports one another, and we were able to create these spaces and communities in that way. And so that's what we've done with Belong. And I wanted something else that was really important to me was to make sure that we don't scrimp too much on the venues. Something I'm really proud of, I'm emotional when I'm talking about it. Something I'm really proud of is we were in this church yesterday. It just an incredible space, venue to be in. When I think about the person that I was, I didn't go in spaces like that because I didn't feel welcome. I didn't feel like those spaces were for me. I didn't have the finances to go to spaces like that. I didn't feel like the type of people that would be in a space like that would be welcoming of somebody like me. When I first got sober, and I used to go out for dinner when I first met my wife, and we'd go out for dinner. If it was even a slightly fancy restaurant, I was so overwhelmed with shame, feeling I used to feel like everybody's looking at me. Everyone in here is looking at me. I look like the odd one out. People are thinking, what is he doing in here? He's here to try and nick something. I felt like that for so long, and I don't today. I don't feel like that in those spaces. And I want to be able to give, I want to be able to give that to people that feel the same way. Because even when I had nothing and I felt those ways back in them days, I was deserving of those spaces in most cases. But I wasn't a less good person than the other people in there. And so one of the things that I try to do online as well, and I can be a little bit antagonistic with it. I know that I can. But if you're of that ilk where you do think you're slightly better than people for whatever reason, then I fucking don't want you to come. I don't want you there. I want us all to come together shoulder to shoulder in these spaces. And so that's what Belong is about. And actually, in the end, for a kind donation from somebody who doesn't want to be named, we won't lose money on that event yesterday. And we brought people together, 80 odd people, as I say. We sold 85 tickets. There's 80 odd people together. You know what's incredible? Loads of people from Breathing Space, which is my online community, came. I didn't even know, but there's a group of 10 of them literally, that between themselves from within our community all met in a pub a few hours before the Breathing Space. And before Belong, before the Breathwork. People from all over the country, people flying in from Northern Ireland, right? Coming in to come together with people that they've met within this community space and having an evening together. And we set the session up very purposely to open the doors early and to let people come in and be together. So we said doors open at 6:30. Come in, get comfortable. We won't start till 7. But I was there at 6, so we just let people in. So people are talking to people that they've never met before about their journeys, about why they're here. Are you nervous? Are you excited? We let everybody feel comfortable and get in the space. No, everybody's welcome. Nobody's above anybody. There was no barrier to entry for this, yeah. And I had a real moment, man, of I said to Nick Edgar, who is one of our affiliate coaches, helps runs it. I said to him at the end when people were sort of led on the floor crying, I was an alcoholic drug addict 12 years ago, and I did not want to be here. I know what it's like to be low. I know what it's like to go to bed and hope you don't wake up in the morning. I know what it's like to go to bed and feel like you don't even have you shouldn't be here and you ain't even got the guts to do that. And I know what it's like to wake up in the morning and open your eyes and think, I've got to try and do this again, and I don't want to do this. My nightmares were dreams of good stuff, because I would dream of a happy life and feel like it was something that I would never have. And I always still had people around me, but I never felt like I belonged anywhere. And I nearly left this world a number of times, like a couple of times, man. There was a couple of very serious attempts. There was one very serious attempt to leave this world, and I thought I'd done it. And I won't go into the detail, but I had a seizure and it didn't quite work. And then there was a stage in my life where I very seriously planned to not be here anymore. And yesterday, I filled a huge church in London with going on 100 people, and an expensive venue, and we made it work, and we pulled them people together. And people talk about how life-changing breathwork is for them, and the one thing that we want everybody to take away is the power in breathwork, how accessible it is, how everybody can do it. We want to arm people with enough agency and autonomy to be able to know that they can be there for themselves, that we can be there for one another, that we can bring spaces back. We can have community. We can have community where we can learn about each other, where we go, let's get rid of everything. Let's not pretend that we all understand each other. Let's not go online and fucking stamp our authority on what we believe and fight against each other. Let's come together in spaces where there's a level of anonymity. I'm telling you now because I know there were some people in that space last night who were in like perceived high positions in life. There were people in there that couldn't afford a ticket that come, and then there were people in there I know that could have fucking bought that building, and nobody knows, because when we come together in that space, we're shoulder to shoulder, and we're building community. We are building community. When I look at Breathing Space, well, even like at Belong yesterday, we had a table at the back. I put some leaflets from an app called I Am Me, which is for young people. It's a free app that young people can download, and there's lots of stuff on them that for them to develop themselves as people and to look after their well-being and stuff. And we said to everybody, like, in future, I don't care what it is. If you got a side hustle going on, if you're doing your thing, if you're trying to make your way out there in the world, if you're becoming a breathwork facilitator, if you're doing sound baths, Reiki, I don't care what it is. If you're setting up a little hairdressing thing, if you're trying to do a bit of football coaching, like whenever you come to the next Belong, because we're going to make these regular, bring your leaflets, bring your cards, put them on the back. This is community. This ain't hyper capitalism when, like, fucking hell, if I start advertising breathwork facilitators in my breathwork, then people ain't gonna come here. That's not what it's about. Let's build each other up, man. And one of the things I'm most proud about with Breathing Space is that we get free facilitators in every month to deliver sessions online, and we pay people. We pay them to come in and deliver the session, to tell everybody who they are and what they're trying to do in the world. And we let people, if you've never ever delivered anything before and you're nervous, come and do it in Breathing Space. Come speak to us. Let's get you in. Let's empower you. And like, that's what matters to me. This is what community is about, and I'm so passionate about it. And I'll be honest with you, yeah? I'll be honest with you. The reason I'm doing it in this way, like, and not like as a charity or something like that, is because, well, there's loads of different reasons. When I went into the charity space, I did a lot of stuff in there, and I like fell out of love with it a little bit because, you're trying to get funding all of the time, and you can lose sight of what you're trying to do. I feel like doing it the way that I'm doing it gives us some power. Now, look, I'm not against charities. Of course I'm not. I fucking love them, right? Nakoa saved my life, changed my life. I'm an ambassador for them. I'm an ambassador for all charities. Children Seen and Heard helps people with parents in prison. Like, I'm not going to try and name it all. But there's amazing charities out there. I'm not against them, but we're doing it in this way, and I believe that we can create change in a slightly different way. And it just means the world to me. And I really sat with it yesterday. And then what happens is I'm on the train on the way home, and what you go from this like emotional space of being able to take on all of this stuff, like all of this positive feedback, and like feeling like we're really doing something, we're really achieving something. And when I say we, by the way, it's really important for me to say we, because I want to mention people like Debs, who is basically my manager, manages my life, really. I want to talk about Nick and Jess and Jules in Breathing Space, and even Adrian, and everybody actually within Breathing Space, because we're a team doing this. We're a team, and it doesn't happen without these people. And everybody has their shit in life, man. Like, everybody's going through some stuff, man. And when we can come together like this and give ourselves respite from that, I don't know why I'm so emotional from it today, but I tell you, so when I got on the train yesterday, you have this, like I say, this emotional high where you're like really seeing yourself, and then of course, like, well, not of course, but when you're somebody like me, shame starts to creep in then, innit? If they fucking knew who you really were. You wait till they find out. And I think that's like, it's important for us to remember that we all have our shadows, right? You all have the stuff's going, when you think something in your head and you think, fuck me, man, if somebody found out that I thought that, they'd string me up, man, in the way that I want to string myself. They'd hate me in the way that I hate myself. So, like, all of that goes on in your head, right? And then you have this crash. And then, like, you know, in those crashes, you just feel alone, man. I was on the train was late, and you just sat on the train, and you're like, it's hard sometimes, isn't it, when you feel lonely? You're like, I'm so glad I'm on my own in that moment, but I fucking could do with having people around me right now. But then you don't want them around you. And listen, I think one of the big learnings from that, and one of the big learnings that I've had over the time of my own journey and sort of healing in this way, is that that's normal, man. I don't know if it's normal. But in my life, it's to be expected, and I can live with it, and I can work with it, and it's okay. And it goes, like, you know, today I feel good, man. And that might come as a surprise, the fact that I've sort of been crying a little bit for the last 20 minutes. But I think, you know, I'm very comfortable with emotional release now, you know. I like it. I like it when it comes and you just let it happen. Let it flow, man. So yeah, I wasn't expecting to get so impassioned. Is that a word? Impassioned. To get so passionate about that in the community space. But like next year, we're really going to go for it, man. We're going to bring these, we're going to take them on the road, and we're going to travel with them. And I really feel like 2025 is going to be a big year. I was going to talk about the fact that when this podcast goes out, I'm recording again on a Friday morning. It goes out on YouTube on Monday, and then everywhere else on Tuesday morning. But it'll be December then. And so I know that December can be a tricky time when you have a tricky family. I think it can be a tricky time if you've got a fucking good family, to be honest with you. It's hard, man, like to, you know, to bring all that up. So I was going to talk a bit about it today, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to save it next week. Actually, I think I'm going to really talk about some of the dynamics that we find, some of the dynamics, you know, from when you go back, if you go back at Christmas to your childhood home, often you will unconsciously, subconsciously go back into a bit of a childlike state, and that can be a little bit jarring if you've done a bit of work on yourself, and it can make you think, fucking hell, I'm not I ain't done any work on myself, look what's happened to me. But that's not true, right? You've got the level of awareness, and so Christmas brings a lot of that, and I think there needs to be some understanding around that. We're going to do a lot of stuff in breathing space, actually, to try and support one another in that way. So if Christmas is difficult for you, yeah, we're going to do lots of stuff around that. I'll make that next week on the podcast. Yeah, we'll talk about the dynamics and everything that comes with that. But for today, I feel like I'm going to wrap this up in a minute. Yeah, like I said to you, and I've said it before, and I'm saying it again. And what I'm doing now, this is a part of me now that feels like I've not done good enough today in this podcast. Interesting, isn't it? Right? There's a part of me that says I've felt like I'm not done good enough. So now I'm going to explain to you why it's not been good enough, so that you can understand and still like me, even though the podcast hasn't been very good today. And you might be listening or watching and thinking to yourself, well, I hope you are. No, man, it was good, man. It was all right. Don't worry about it. But I try as much as I can to give you the true version of myself. But yeah, you've got me in that kind of sleepy, emotional state today, which is good, man. It's good to have the emotions, you know. And what I'll do today is I got a back appointment in a minute. And then there's a place where I get my car cleaned. And I can sit in a coffee shop around the corner from that. But on the way there, I'm going to put some Westlife on. And I'm going to cry in the car. I'm going to cry in the car. Some find a chair in every morning. Oh my God, I'm singing on the podcast. I think this is a good point. This is a good point to end it. I don't know what the fuck just happened, but I'm Josh Connolly. And as always, this was definitely dysfunctional. I did tell you it would be dysfunctional. So thank you for sticking around till the end here. And if you have enjoyed this podcast, then please help me to grow Dysfunctional by sharing with your friends on social media. You can find me at Josh_FFW. And then wherever you're listening to this or watching this, please make sure that you've liked and subscribed, left us a 5-star review and a comment if your platform allows it. And I'll see you on the next one.